Hello, and welcome to the Mindset Bloomcast with Mallory. We are here live today, and this is awesome. I'm excited to be here, and you are listening to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and Podcasts, the number one internet talk network. So we're happy to have you here today. Today we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics, and probably one of those that also is a little cringy inside when you hear people talk about it. Goals is kind of the theme for today, but we're going to kind of jump back into what we talked about 2 weeks ago on your mindset and getting that all wrapped around and good, and then creating a goal setting system that doesn't feel so large and similar and structural to what you may have experienced in the past. So, our topic today is don't quit, not even for a second. This is one of my life mottos. So I'm going to start today just by telling you a little bit about why don't quit is a motto or a mantra, I guess, that I live by. When I was probably about 7 or 8, my grandfather made all of us memorize poems as part of just a growing up thing. He'd give us $1 or $2 for memorizing poems. And so one of his favorite was Don't Quit. And if you haven't looked it up, look it up. It's a great one. But it has kind of become my whole extended family's motto, because everybody has had to memorize this poem from as long as any of us can remember. It's been kind of the mantra that's been ingrained in ourselves and in just family teachings and life. And so with that, it created a drive within me that no matter how outlandish something may seem or how difficult something may seem, if I just chip away at it, it will, and just not give up, then everything will come to fruition. So I'm hoping today that you get a little bit of insight and wisdom to maybe push you forward into something, and just know that you don't have to give up on it, that anything is attainable. Just don't quit. If you can't make it in X amount of time, don't be afraid to say, I can't make it in this time. I need it to be a longer time span, and that's okay. Life is fine. As long as that goal is attainable, it doesn't matter when you get there, you will get there. So first, we're going to talk about mindset, because I feel like that when you go into goal setting, that it's always one of those, you have to have what kind of has become the standard as the SMART goals, something that's specific and measurable and has a defined timeline, and that those things are something that you can kind of gauge your progress, for lack of better terms, that you're gauging yourself on. If I reached it, then I made it. If I didn't, then I'm failing, which is not true. And that's where our mindset can kind of play a trick on us a little bit, of saying, well, you didn't hit this goal, then you're failing. You're not going to ever reach this. You're never going to get past this. So why are you even choosing to make those big dreams? Because, the dreams aren't going to happen, because you can't even make step 1, so you can't make step 5. And it's a lie that we end up telling ourselves, and we never go for those big things. And sometimes we end up settling for the things that we don't really want, but we're settling and saying, this is the best that I can have, which is not true. We're going to flip the script on that a little bit, of we can have anything. It's just going to be the dedication and time and motivation that we have to achieve those things. Maybe it's something, maybe you want a new car and it's a specific car. And are you going to be okay waiting maybe another extra 6 months, 2 months, a year before you can get that car? Or if you don't get it by the end of this year, it's done. Like, we can't ever have that. It's not going to be attainable. We'll shoot for something that's a little less or within some of the specs that we wanted, not necessarily all of them. And we're just going to kind of settle into this and just be okay with that. And it goes with anything else in your life. Maybe you're starting a business, and from my own story, I'm not speaking for all because everybody's different, but from my own story, I wanted it to be an overnight success, right? Everybody wants their business to take off. Everybody wants their ideas to be out there. The content that you have, you've worked so hard, and when you finally share it with the world, it's a little scary, but you want everybody to love it as much as you do. And if it doesn't take off, did you fail? No. It's just going to take a little bit of different tweaking to make it happen, but it's not, you didn't fail. It's going to take off in its own time, and what you put into it to get it where you want it is also how successful it's going to be in that. And some ideas do take off right off the get-go, and other ideas just go kind of on a slower trajectory and then explode later. Some just keep growing slowly and they never hit the explosion. They just keep growing at a steady rate, depending on whatever it is. So in that theory of having those goals, I could have taken some of my business goals, my personal goals, and thought I was a complete failure for not having achieved them. When I look at a 5-year plan, or my plan reflected on my plan for last year, that some of my goals happened and were achieved. Some exceeded what I had planned on, and others just didn't make it. They made it part of the way, some of the way. A couple steps were taken in the right direction, but they weren't necessarily all completed. And I could have looked at that and said, well, those are way out of reach, and I'm never going to go for those again, because like, I can't reach them one time, I'm not going to be able to reach them again. But I took them as a learning lesson and said, we're going to go just a little bit above what this goal was, and it will be achievable. And I'm going to maybe put a little bit more focus and energy in those specific areas rather than ones that seemed simpler for me to do. So maybe in your plan and idea for the year, or for the next little bit, whenever you set goals, is maybe you want to wake up earlier every day and get in a better morning habit, or going to bed at a reasonable hour, whatever that is for you, and creating a better nighttime routine, or something in the middle of, maybe you just want to be able to exercise for 20 minutes sometime during your day, or you want to pick up a new hobby and want to delve into what that looks like. Whatever that goal looks like for you, it is achievable. But if you don't if you chose waking up in the morning or going to bed at a reasonable hour, if you make it 2 out of the 5 days a week, awesome. Great. You made it 2 days that week. There's one more step. Maybe next week you're going to go for 3, and create that pattern, get in a pattern. It won't happen overnight. One of my strong things I'm working on this year is to create a better morning routine, which does include waking up early than I normally do. But with 2 kids, and depending on what's going on, my 6-month-old is teething right now, so we're not sleeping all the way through the night some nights. My 2-year-old just decides sometime that midnight is a really good time to go to bed. So that kind of infringes on my own sleep patterns. And I can either let that hinder me and say, I'm not waking up, I'm not waking up this early. I don't have time for that. It won't happen. Or I can push myself out of bed the next morning and just accept what happened and move forward and adjust my day as needed into my energy level the next day just to stay consistent. So that is something that, as you look at what your goals are, to wrap your mindset around that, and also celebrate the small victories. I'm a huge proponent of celebrating small things, small wins. And as we talked about 2 weeks ago, just taking the time to actually sit in that feeling of, I woke up today earlier than I normally have, or I went to bed earlier than I normally have. Whatever that goal is you're working on, celebrate the day that you do it, or the minute that it happens, or however that looks in your plan and your schedule. Just make sure you celebrate it. You've made one step toward that. You've made one step in that consistency. You've started that journey. So celebrate those wins, because if you are looking at the big picture and not celebrating along the way, you're going to get burnt out and you're going to feel like you never have reached that goal in the first place, or that it is completely unattainable, because maybe some days it will feel like a farther stretch, that the light at the end of that tunnel got to be farther than it was yesterday, just because of maybe what has happened or things that conspire conspire or go into your day, that they can change and things. So some days they may seem really far and unattainable, and other days they're like right on track. But make sure you celebrate those small wins. Also, don't beat yourself up for taking a day off, or things not quite going to according to plan. Maybe yesterday you were right on track and today you just kind of fell off for a small minute. Don't tell yourself that it's not going to be achievable, that you can't do it, that everything's going to go fall apart right now. Um, I learned an interesting fact this week going off of that. I didn't realize that there was an actual holiday. I put that in air quotes because it's not necessarily a holiday, but an acknowledgement day of when people actually quit their New Year's goals. And this year it was on January 14th. I'm not sure if it changes every year, but I looked it up, and this year it was on January 14th. That's the day that most people quit their whatever they set for New Year's, that their resolutions or their goals, whatever it is. That's the day they kind of give up. You've put in 2 solid weeks and something fell off. You fell off the wagon, or something just didn't go according to plan. So everybody's kind of just throwing the towel. I'm over it. I'm done. And then just moving on with the daily life. So that goes into our topic today of don't quit. It's kind of what spurred this mindset and me digging and researching into this a little bit of why quitting in 2 weeks of the year, and you have 365 days to do all of these things, and take out 14, and we're just right back to where you were last year. So not quitting is setting those goals and celebrating those small victories that are going to get you over that hump and make it attainable. So with that in mind and our mindset wrapped around that, I want you guys to think for a minute about maybe a goal you set. Did you give up on it already and think, nah, it's not happening? Did you even set resolutions this year? Because the last 2 years, it probably just felt like, why? For me, I didn't set goals or resolutions that were big. Just my goal and resolution was to just get a little bit better each day. Um, that I've used the last 2 years as rebuilding years and reflection years. And now I have different goals that I want to achieve within a certain amount of time. But my main resolution this year was just to get a little bit better every single day. So we're going to jump into we're going to kind of go off the path of having the SMART goals, those attainable goals, those specific goals, because all goals are attainable. So the specific narrowed down goals, and jump into some that I have found really resonated with me over the last little bit while scouring Twitter. And then a couple other people that I follow reposted this. And I thought it was a really good way to set goals this year if you're not wanting to set those actual goals or things that those SMART goals. So to set these, what they called fun goals. And I found this on Twitter from Emily Ladow is who it was. I believe that's how you say her name. But fun goals that make it a little bit better to set goals and to enjoy actually trying to achieve these goals, right? So she defined them as fun was the F was flexible. Life happens and things change and your goals shift, right? With the state of the world and who knows where it's at and where you're at, but whatever your environment looks like, it's changing. The world right now is constant influx, what feels like continual flip-flopping. You get told one thing, then the next day it's another thing. There feels like there's no consistency or stability. So setting those goals that are just flexible. Maybe you want to buy that new car and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to get it within 3 months. Pending environmental circumstances or your own circumstances, it may take 6 months, but be okay with that. Allow that fluidity to happen in your life, but celebrate maybe, okay, I can't get it for 6 months. I have X amount of dollars more to put down toward my car. Celebrate that win. Celebrate that maybe you found it's a different car or a better car at a different time. Celebrate that win. Allow for the flexibility. Life is very fluid. Everything being a strict and regimented, when you see on your calendar in big bold letters it says you have to have had whatever goal it is done by today. This is your deadline. Did you or did you not? You can't say yes. You're going to look at it and think, I didn't make it. I failed. I didn't reach this goal. I failed. When maybe it would have would be an extra 2 weeks and you could have hit that goal. But because it wasn't done on that deadline on that day, so does it tell you that you failed? No, just took a little bit of extra time to make that happen. And you shouldn't give up on it just because for some reason you felt you needed this to be your deadline and it didn't happen. Don't give up on it. There's still time that you can still create it. It can still happen. Just allow for that fluidity. Life happens. Be flexible. Enjoy being flexible and living in that moment. And flexibility allows for you to celebrate those wins and enjoying being, okay, I've made it X amount of steps into this goal. And these other cool things have happened that will help build upon it and make it a better goal, or have taught me different things that it's shifted my goal in what that looks like. So the first, she said the F for fun was flexible. So enjoy the flexibility. The U stood for uplifting. Bettering yourself is not a punishment. I am a student of life and I'm also a huge personal development fan. If you look at my podcast stations, I either have personal development and business development, or I have true crime. There's not a lot in the middle of what that looks like. And it's not a terrible thing. We're all learning, we're all growing, and find something that's uplifting. As you can see, like back on my shelves, there we go, shelf, I have lots of books. I read a lot of different types of books, things that make me happy, trying something new. Also, I've made a goal to be a little bit more adventurous this year and go try something maybe I haven't done before. Um, for me, that looks like testing out a garden. I've never gardened before, but it's something new and something that I would love to have. So I'm going to test out a garden and see if I don't manage to let it fry in the sun in the summer and that I can actually harvest from it. And learning that. I'm also trying to better myself in um just my everyday life, being a little bit better of a wife and more understanding, being a more patient mom and a business owner, and just working with other people, being better at communicating and learning how to communicate with different people because all of us communicate differently, and listening, being more of an active listener and getting tips from where I can. I'm not an expert in everything. Um, so I want to share my knowledge, but I also want knowledge shared with me on the things that are going to help me become a little bit better of a person and understanding of the things in the world and different places, different cultures, all of everything that goes around it. I just want to be a more well-rounded human. So for me, uplifting things is just making myself better in the best way that I know how, and reaching out to people to help build me up and give me that encouragement of how it's going to be an awesome place. So that is the you, uplifting. Whatever uplifting is for you, make it something that makes you just a more well-rounded person. And then last for the N was numberless. If I'm not setting a goal to say I need to read 30 books, personal development books, or I need to hit an X dollar amount of revenue, or I need to have X amount of dollars in my savings account or anything like that. My life won't be drastically different if I read 15 books, or if I have half of what I want to make, or if my savings account is a little bit below where I wanted. It's not going to be completely different. I'm still going to live by the same principles and keep practicing those things and just working on it. That doesn't need to have an actual timestamp. Again, it goes back to having that deadline. If you don't make the 10 books, whatever, by December 15th, whatever that hard deadline is, did you fail? No. Did you read 8 books? Yeah, great. You read 8 books. Did you read more than that? Awesome. There's no defining boundary around that. So we're going to practice. I want you guys to set some fun goals. Some that are flexible, some that are uplifting, and some that are numberless, that won't feel like you're draining yourself for the year, that you have the energy to go through those. And that with all goals, there does need to have some results in there. Maybe it's for me, starting a garden, my results would be harvesting. That would be awesome if it happened. If it didn't, I'll just try again. Action. You always need action steps. There can be big, lofty goals. So something for me that I've had on my mind for a long time that I want to achieve at some point in my life is to spend a month traveling around Australia and New Zealand. But the steps to get there are saving the money, making a plan, creating kind of an itinerary of what that would look like, get different travel packages or whatever that looks like on the long run. I do have to take some action. I'm not just going to be able to say, okay, now, right? We have to have action to get there. And whatever that action is, we do need to have call to actions in our goals. Those baby steps that say, okay, I'm one step closer. Maybe it's saving $10,000 for an emergency fund. So the first step is to maybe save $10. And then the next step is another $20. And whatever that is, those steps, those call to action steps that will help move that goal farther along. Time, depending on your goals, some goals do need time. Maybe you want to have an emergency fund because you want to quit your current job, or you have a different plan you would like to take and you want to have that emergency fund. That's your time frame, is to make it in between that. If you don't have a time frame and it's something that's farther in the future, maybe within the next 5 years, like me going to Australia and New Zealand, then I can make those steps of, by the end of year 1, I want to have this part of the plan laid out. And then by the end of year 2, I want to have this type of money amount laid out. And then the end of year 3, whatever that looks like, those timestamps are okay to have on a longer stretch goal to make it so that it actually happens and can come to fruition, and it just doesn't sit on the vision board in your mind. And then last is motivation. What's going to get you there? What's going to help you achieve that goal? Why do you want that goal? For me to go to Australia and New Zealand would be, I want to go experience this amazing culture, and from all the great stories I've heard about, and I just want to live in that. And I know that from where I am, and to get there is a little bit more expensive, that I probably can't fund that right now, or that timing just hasn't worked out for that, but I still want to get there. So I'm going to make those steps to do that because it's something that I really want to experience. What is your motivation for those goals? What's your motivation for creating those uplifting goals? What's going to help you move forward in what that looks like? You're also going to need that mindset of, if it doesn't happen on this right timeline, it's okay. We're still going to go. We're still going to make this happen. We didn't fail. We're just still working on it. Something else may become more of a priority at the moment before you can work on that goal. Allow for the fluidity. I've been experiencing fluidity for the last couple of years and have really enjoyed not feeling like I was weighed down by looming appointments, I put that in air quotes, of what's on my calendar, of goal setting. I have sat down on the 31st of December a couple years ago and reflected on my year, and completely felt like I was a failure as a person, as at anything I was doing, because I didn't hit some of those things that I thought were the standard and the expectation. But I also was better in other areas, and I came out stronger in other areas. But I didn't account for that in my calendar appointment of sitting down and looking at my goals. It just kind of fell by the wayside, and I didn't allow myself to feel the accomplishments that I actually did have over the year, just because there weren't they didn't necessarily align with the goals that I had already set. They were just shifted goals. So allow for that fluidity, because nobody is ever failing. You're never failing. You are exactly where you need to be right now. And you will be exactly on the path that you need to be on, and be led to where you need to go to make those goals happen. Just allow for fluidity of time and letting them shift, letting those goals shift, because they're not always going to be set in stone. You're not always going to have the solid answer. You could have the goal of having a garden, like my goal of having a garden, and I may not have a full garden, and I may not ever harvest something. But along the way, I learned how to be a better gardener, and things that I would do different the next time I did it. Doesn't mean I failed. It just means I learned something new, right? it's became an uplifting goal in the long run because I bettered myself. I learned something new. So kind of shift the way that you look at your goals. They don't have to be solid. They just can fit in a bunch of different categories as well. They can be that fluid, and they can move forward into the uplifting category. Maybe you started a personal goal that ended up as a, a family goal, or a goal with you and your partner that you didn't think was a goal, and it just ended up working out together that both of you were trying to achieve the same thing. So allow for that to happen. Goals are not solely based on yourself. So with the fun goals, I set some for that were personal to me, things that I wanted to do. And then I also set some for my family. And we talked about it, of things being flexible, of saying, okay, we want to go and spend time camping as a family, and we want to go for at least 4 weekends. Whatever 4 weekends those fall in, they're there. Doesn't matter. We're just going 4 times. If we go more than that, great. If we go less than that, it's fine. We still at least made it along that way, and having that time to be together. So create also things with your family. Make it more of a, pun intended, fun experience of having that be something that is not only personal to you, but bring your family together. Find something that you all are trying to achieve together. Maybe it's you want to go on a vacation as a family, and how all of you are going to contribute to make that happen. Allow it to be fun, and fun for everybody. So though, for the two things we've talked about right now and covered our mindset around goal setting and not quitting. Time is not a constraint on everything. Allow ourselves to be flexible, and then setting fun goals, creating those flexible, uplifting, and numberless goals that are just, some can be outrageous, some can be realistic, whatever that looks like. Allow it to happen, and being fluid in those. And then the last set that I have found that really stuck out to me was creating what they call dumb goals. Those are demanding, unrealistic, meaningful, and bold. So for the demanding ones, I put my personal take on it, and this, interpret how you feel and what works best in your situation, in your circumstances, everything like that. But my demanding goals were things that I really, really want to achieve this year. So things, I have personal business goals that I want to achieve with my business. My husband is also an entrepreneur, so he has those demanding business goals that he wants to reach. At the same time, we have demanding goals of things that we want out of our lives together that we've created for our family. But I also have my own personal goals that are demanding, that I want to make sure happen. I want to get that morning routine better, because I know in my mindset, in my world, in my space, that having a good morning routine will set me up for the rest of the day. And that's really the only time of the day that I can control. I can control what time I wake up, and then most things in my space and my world don't start until about 8:30 a.m. my time. So I know that between the time I want to wake up, which is 6 o'clock, to 8:30, I have that time to get all of the things that I want to done. I want to be able to do my meditating, my journaling, my exercise, have a good breakfast with my family, and then before we all start the day. And then I know that I've accomplished that, and that's something that is demanding and something that I really want to focus on. Whatever that looks like for you, allow that to happen. Find what those things that really you think will make that big lasting impact on you and your person or your family, that will increase that extra drive and motivation to get there, to make you feel like you're on it. The next one is unrealistic. I have a lot of those. I am a dreamer by nature, and a daydreamer where I want to achieve ridiculous things and things that are so far out of my hands. One of those that is super unrealistic for me right now is to I want to take a train trip across Europe, and stay in hostels and do a full immersive experience. It's unrealistic for me right now, only because of where I'm at in my life. I can't really find a time where people are going to take my kids for however long I want to make that happen. That trip, I just want to be able to go, right? I don't want to have a time where I come home. So I've got to adjust with kids and things like that. So that's unrealistic for me at the moment. Will it be always unrealistic? I don't know. But right now that's that is unrealistic for me. But it's something that I want to put out there to the world and make it manifest in its own way, that it could happen at some point. So whatever that unrealistic goal is for you, set it. Don't be afraid to write it down. If your real unrealistic goal is to go to space, put it on there. Maybe you can find all the right people to get on the space shuttle that's going out there. Like, good for you. Whatever that unrealistic goal is, write it down. You're not wrong if you write it down. There's no right or wrong what you're going to put down. Put it out there. Who knows what's going to come of it? You may get closer to it and it may just still be a pipe dream. Don't know. Put it out there. Maybe you want to be the lead guitarist for a new rock band. Put it on there. And that could be you've never picked up a guitar in your life. So put it on there, right? I'd love to be a rock star. I also know I'm not the best singer, but it's still unrealistic and I'd still love it. So I'm putting it out there that I want to do that thing. Then something that is meaningful. Now, meaningful can define differently by everybody, right? Meaningful to me is something that is more on the sentimental side of things. I'm a sentimental person by nature. And so something meaningful to me is something that ties me to my roots, ties me to my ancestors, ties me to my heritage, ties me to somehow ties me relationship wise to something that keeps me grounded. So something meaningful for me is to write down the family history of that. So we're going to kind of jump into whatever that looks like for you, those meaningful goals. If you are a sentimental person, or maybe it is trying to connect with the universe in a different way, just feeling better about the skin you're in. And that's okay. That's a meaningful goal, feeling confident and comfortable in the person that you are. It does take time and practice to get there. And I speak from experience in that, and it's still a work in progress. I'm not always comfortable in the skin I'm in, and not always the most confident in the person that I am. But at the end of the day, I can look at myself in the mirror and know that I did the best I could, and that I am an amazing human, that I'm just only getting better. And the situations around it shouldn't dull my shine, for lack of better terminologies. But it shouldn't dull the person that I am and my personality, which society and situation and things like that can feel like it's just dulling your personality, that you can't be that person authentically to who you are, because somewhere something we've got it in our minds or been conditioned that it's not okay to want to think that way or anything like that. Allow yourself to shine. Everybody shines. Everybody needs you to show up for who you are and as you. So show up as you. So creating those meaningful goals that will really help feel your heart, fill up your cup, give you that extra boost of self-love, self-confidence, respecting yourself, whatever that is. That's what I determine as meaningful. What it is to you is something in your definition. Find out what that means. And then last is bold. Finding something that's bold. Bold to me just means standing out. So for me, standing out and standing up, right? For something that's being unwavering in whatever it is. So something for me to be bold and to create that goal would be not being afraid to stand up for me as a person, or things that make me, and to step 100%, no matter what, authentically into who I am and allow it to be. That is something for me that is bold. It hasn't always been easy. It's a work in progress. I've taken the steps along the way to create little aspects of that goal. But this year, my bold goal is just to always be 100% authentically me. Transparent. As you can see, my office, I've got toys behind me. I've got books behind me. I've got my calendar. Be transparent. I am a human. My whole life is not a highlight reel. My whole life is not all the positives. Yes, I have some down moments. There are times that I do the ugly cry in my pantry because I don't want my kids to see me or my husband to see me. I have all fluxes of emotions. I have highs, I have lows, I have just static days where it's all okay, whatever that looks like. So for me to be bold is to step into my transparency and my authenticity, and to hear it for what it is. I want to look into real life. So being here as a part of this, I want you guys to feel like you're a part of just a hangout. I want these to be like coffee chats, and you to enjoy something, gain something, learn something, but feel like you're just talking to a friend. That's me stepping into my bold goal. So just a quick recap of the show today. I'm so glad you're here. If you're catching this the last minute, make sure you catch the replay. But homework, I wouldn't ask you guys to do anything I wouldn't do. So my homework for you is to create those dumb goals and those fun goals that you need in your life that will give you an extra boost of motivation. Fun goals are flexible, uplifting, and numberless, and your dumb goals are demanding, unrealistic, meaningful, and bold. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. You have been listening to the Mindset Bloomcast with Mallory. I am Mallory McGary, the founder and CEO of Beautifully Blooming, and I am the Mindset Coach Mama. You can find me at www.beautifullyblooming.com, or you can email me at mallory@beautifullyblooming.com. I'm so glad you're here. You are listening to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, the #1 radio, TV, and podcasts, internet talk radio. So we're so glad to have you here. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you learned something today. So hit me up and let me know if you have something you want to hear or something that resonated with you. I'm so glad that you're here. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye, everybody.